Physical media man, physical media man, physical media man. What'd you buy? Was it something good?
What's up, guys? Physical Media Man back here again for another bonus video. I got a video with nothing to do with physical media, but before I get started, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, leave feedback, do all that good stuff down below. I'll leave the links to my Instagram page, my Physical Media Man store Instagram page, my Facebook page for the Physical Media Man / Physical Media Man store, my Facebook page for non-media related items, the Hodgepodge Garage, my email, my eBay, my Twitter, and my Letterboxd account. So this is to do about college football. This is to get you excited for college football and really get you ready for the game. But it's about why I prefer college football over the NFL. A year or so ago, one of my friends asked me why I like college football so much, or why I prefer it, or why my favorite team was the college football team. I don't hate the NFL. I enjoy the NFL as well, but I definitely like college football a lot more. And I have a long list here of reasons. So I'm going to try to go over these and hopefully get you excited for college football and really get you ready for hopefully your team's games. So I'm just going to go start in on this list. So first up, only 9 states don't have FBS programs. So they are Alaska, Delaware, Maine, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Dakota, and Vermont. And I know at least some of those have FCS programs. So probably almost every state has a college football team. Only 21 states have an NFL team. So a lot of states do not have NFL teams. So that's a big thing. I know, like, if you think of Nebraska or Iowa, they don't have NFL teams, and their college football teams, the way that their fans are, you can kind of see part of the reason is they don't have an NFL team. Another thing is walk-ons. There's a lot of walk-ons throughout college football. Some of them even end up or a lot of them get scholarships, and some of them even end up making NFL teams in the end. And then some of them are just walk-ons their whole career. But those ones that get walk-on to scholarship, they end up getting a scholarship to the university that they're attending, which is really neat. And of course, Rudy, I'm a big Notre Dame fan, so had to mention Rudy there. There's more teams, so there's more players, obviously. So there's a better chance of a high school player ending up making a college football team versus there's a much slimmer chance of that high school player ending up being an NFL player. So then you also have a better chance of knowing a college football player. And then with that, since there's more college football players, there's a bigger fraternity of former college football players versus the amount of former NFL players. Their rivalry games, I feel like there's a lot more of them. I don't know if for instance, the Colts and Patriots seem like a rivalry with Peyton and Tom Brady at the time. Now it's not as much, but college football ones, they seem to continue on no matter what. And there's also trophies associated with a lot of those games, which just added fun. And some of those games are the biggest games for those schools throughout their entire season. Even if it's not necessarily their toughest opponent, it's their most important game. Tailgating, I know there's tailgating in the NFL as well, but I feel like the tailgating in college football is just a lot more fun. Some of that has to do with the different game times, which I'll mention later. Some of that has to do with they have tailgate fields versus the NFL. It seems like they're all just parking lots. There might be places that aren't like that I haven't been to. I haven't been to as many NFL venues as I have college football. And then also, kind of within that, you're getting together with maybe your old college roommates or your friends from college that you haven't seen in a while, or your family always goes to the games, that type of thing. I don't think that the NFL, sure they have tailgating, but it's not the same as the college football aspect of tailgating. And then of course you got college students that tailgate, and sometimes college students just tailgate and don't go to the game. So there's that. And of course a lot of the schools, they aren't in major cities. Some of them are, but a lot of the schools are in just basically college towns. And that's another pro and thing that I like more about college football, is that a lot of times the universities really shape their towns, and they're a lot of the reason that people live there or go there. And there's a lot of neat things that are in college towns that aren't in big cities. There's also bowl games, which of course there's the NFL playoffs, which is great, but a lot of teams don't make it, or they just lose right away. But bowl games, you have a 50-50 chance of winning if you make a bowl game. And then also there's conference championships that are a lot of fun, and in one specific venue. So people go just to the conference championships, which is a lot of fun. And the NFL, it's just the playoffs, and there's one home team, and it's not as big of a gathering. I mean, the Super Bowl is, but there's bigger gatherings, I feel like, for the conference championship, and then also the bowl games. So yeah, the overtime rules in college football are a lot better. They make for a lot more exciting games, and they're a lot more enjoyable to watch. The NFL really needs to kind of address that. I don't know if they ever will, but I really enjoy the college football overtimes. The bands and cheerleaders, I feel like, of course, the NFL has cheerleaders, but they don't have bands, and I think the band plays a really big role in the atmosphere of the game, and they add a lot to the overall experience. I love listening to the band play, and yeah, that's just another pro there. One of the biggest things is all the games are on. If there's a big game, you're going to be able to watch it. The NFL, they sometimes flex things for Sunday or Monday night, but not until near the end of the season. They're not always having the best games on, versus college football. All the big games are on. There's no blackouts. That's not a thing. There is like the Big Ten Network and those type of things, so you might not get those where you're from. But around here, you're able to get everything. Maybe the Pac-12 network, if there is one. I'm not able, but I know they have games on late sometimes. So, but if you're wanting to watch them, you would be able to, and it wouldn't be too expensive. Versus the NFL, there's just Sunday ticket, and it's like $300 or $400 a year, which is crazy. So yeah, there's another thing. There's student sections, which they don't have in the NFL, and the student section adds a lot to the overall experience of the game, and they make the crowd more into it and everything. There's more cheers and chants versus the NFL. And of course the mascots, there are mascots in the NFL, but I feel like the mascots in the college football are a lot more memorable and bring a lot more to the experience as well as fight songs, which is another big thing. I know that there are some NFL teams, I believe, that do have fight songs, but not like college football, where every team has a fight song and the band plays it all the time. Also, another thing, student athletes, they're more relatable. You have a better chance of knowing someone that was a former student athlete versus a former NFL player. And they're more relatable. You might have classes with them. You might not be on the specific team, but you might end up being friends with them because you're in the same dorm or something along those lines. College game day. So I'm posting this video. This is a Friday. I'm posting this tomorrow, a Saturday before college game day. I try to watch college game day every weekend if I can. I feel like it's a great show. They do a lot of really good interviews and have great insight versus the NFL. Some of their pregame shows are pretty good, but I don't think anything compares to college game day, going to where usually the biggest game is that weekend, and being around the crowd and having former players or alumni or people that are associated with the university be involved. It's just a really neat thing. The Heisman Trophy, of course, the NFL has the MVP and a few other awards, but the Heisman is just a really neat trophy, and there's also a lot more trophies, I feel like, versus the NFL, where a lot more people are able to be honored, as well as the All-Americans and that type of thing. There's more whiteouts, redouts, that type of thing. Whiteout comes to mind, Penn State, how well they're able to get all their fans to wear white. I don't feel like the NFL really does anything like that, and that also adds to the environment and the experience. There's no owners of the universities versus owners of NFL teams, except for, I think, the Green Bay Packers aren't necessarily have an owner or a specific person. You have a better chance to have a voice to the school. And also, the universities aren't going to move versus the NFL. I think of the St. Louis Rams, who used to be the Los Angeles Rams, and then went to St. Louis and then back to LA, and they've moved quite a few times. Oakland just moved to Las Vegas. College university isn't going to get up and move. So, I mean, there is a chance that they could possibly lose their football program, but they'd have to be pretty bad to do that. So that's another big thing. I couldn't imagine being a St. Louis Rams fan and then them moving. It's also not as costly to go to the games, even though a lot of the venues have less seating. A lot of the venues, they also don't go up as much in seating, they more go out. So I feel like there's better views in the stadiums. There's still a lot of stadiums that have a lot of people that are able to go, but it's still not nearly as costly as what it is to go to an NFL game. So that's a big thing. New players to root for every 4 or 5 years or so. With the NFL, there could be players that have 20-year careers, which could be great, especially if that person was really good and on your team. But there could also be that player that you could never get over the hump and beat, versus college football. Every 4 or 5 years, you kind of start over somewhat. Of course, there are teams that dominate decades and that type of thing, but I feel like you have a better chance of on down the line having another really good program versus the NFL, where you never know, you could always have a terrible program. So I feel like it's easier to turn things around in college. They're also older and neater stadiums. I feel like there are a few stadiums that I would have on my NFL bucket list, and there are a few stadiums that are somewhat old. And another thing with the stadiums is they aren't sponsored. They don't have Lucas Oil Stadium as their name, or Heinz Field, or that type of thing. Of course, there are a couple in the NFL, Soldier Field and Lambeau Field come to mind, that aren't sponsored. But none of the college football stadiums are sponsored. They also, a lot of them have really neat nicknames like the Big House, or the Horseshoe, or the Swamp, or that type of thing. And a lot of them are named after either former people that had something to do with the university, or just named after the school, Notre Dame Stadium, Michigan Stadium. So yeah, that's another thing. And like I said, they just seem like neater stadiums. That's what I would say. I have a few more things here. Most games are on Saturday, not all of them are. And in the last few years, there have been some games that they've been doing on even maybe Wednesday night, some on Thursday and Friday. But most of the games are on Saturday. So another pro is you don't have to go to work usually the next day unless you work on the weekends. I feel like college football, they have a lot more traditions than the NFL. And there are traditions in the NFL, and there are a lot of neat things, a lot of pros to the NFL. As I said earlier, this is not to bash the NFL. This is just to say why I prefer college football, and to get you excited about it. Another thing is the players pick where they want to go, versus the NFL where they're drafted. So that's another neat thing. Also, because of that, there's also signing day where players pick where they want to go. Every game means more in the college football than the NFL. You can lose a few games in the NFL and still have the best record. With college football, you can only lose maybe one game and have a chance at the championship. That's not always the case, but usually, and they are talking about expanding the playoff, but still, the games definitely mean a lot more, and even one game could definitely ruin your season. Also, homecoming, when I was talking about tailgating, where previous alumni come back, and homecoming. There's also different styles of football. There's the triple option, for instance, which isn't a thing that's really used in the NFL. So there's a lot more. There can be different styles of football versus the NFL. It's almost always the same. And I've already talked about college campuses. Another thing is there aren't very many, if any, dome stadiums. The only thing that I could think of was Syracuse and the Carrier Dome. And also there's a shorter season, usually only 12 games and then a bowl game, versus the NFL, which is now up to 17 regular season games. So that case. So I think that's about everything I have. And like I said, this is not necessarily to bash the NFL. I enjoy the NFL. But I just prefer college football, and I just wanted to give my reasonings on why, and to get you excited about college football. Get you excited about the games. Oh yeah. So yeah, here's time to root for your teams. And don't forget, men, today's the day. We're gonna win. Let's have a game day!
Back in 02, I could throw pigskin quarter mile. Physical media man. Physical media man. Physical media man. Yeah!